If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
Sports media superstar competition. John, give me 5 good minutes of sports radio. Go for it.
Well, Nestor and I just started this conversation about how it's a business. And you know what? If it's a business, that means sports is a business. And I think one story out there that really hasn't got a lot of play, that should get a lot more play, that I think may be the next big thing in sports, is what happened with Arkansas State's football team. Yep, Arkansas State. Don't know where they are. Don't know really much about them, except they won the Sun Belt. But what did they do? They auctioned the right to be the head coach of their football team at their spring game to anybody who wanted. eBay. You can sell bobbleheads. Apparently, you can sell head coaching positions for one day. They got $11,700 from this guy named Nick Bardwaj, 25-year-old from Silicon Valley, dropped out of college. He owns this place called Beyond Games as the CEO. And that got me thinking, why don't teams do this more often? How much do you think Maryland would get? If Arkansas State could get close to 12,000, what's Maryland getting with some of the alums they have? Bardwaj didn't even go to the school. He dropped out of San Jose State. How much, if you're rich, how much would you have paid to go coach Maryland's football team at their spring game last week? 15, 20? Hey, spring games aren't important. As long as no one gets hurt, they're not important. You come up with crazy scoring ways, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how well you play at the spring game. It doesn't dictate anything. Yes, if you got Bubba and Jimmy as your 2 starting quarterbacks, and Bubba throws for 400 yards and 4 TDs at the spring game, and Jimmy's terrible, oh well, Bubba's going to enter fall practice as your number 1 starter. If in fall practice, Jimmy throws for touchdowns every day, throwing dimes across the field, and Bubba's bad, what's the coach going to say? Oh, well, you were great in the spring game, so you're going to start the season opener. No, he's not. The guy who plays the best over weeks of fall camp will be your starter. So if the game really doesn't count, why don't you open up and make some money off of it? Or better yet, what do you think would happen if Alabama, the University of Alabama, went to eBay and said, you know what, you can coach the Tide for one game, $100 grand? There would definitely be some kid in Tuscaloosa whose daddy would spend every dime he'd saved for his kid's college fund just because he's like, hey son, sorry, I want to go be on the same sideline and coach a Tide like the Bear. Roll Tide. I mean, he would easily shell out $100. He would shell out every dime he had. He'd be like, son, listen, Bear, because you know the kids. If the guy's going to spend $100,000 to coach Alabama, 100% chance that kid, the dad's son is going to be named Bear. That's definitely going to happen. And so he'd be like, Bear, listen, you don't need all that learning. Just tell people your job interview the next time you apply to Waffle House. Be like, my daddy coached on the same sideline as the Bear. You know, I know scattered, smothered, and covered, and roll Tide. And that's what would happen. But guess what? Alabama would get like $100,000. And if that happens, what would they do at Georgia, in South Carolina, and USC? I mean, you're just talking, if it doesn't count and you're not playing for keeps, you should just make money off of it. I mean, it worked for Arkansas State. They got close to 12 grand, and in the middle of April, they're on ESPN. They have Darren Rovell talking and tweeting to all his hundreds of thousands of followers. They're on Sporting News. They're everywhere. Then it got me to thinking, well, wait a second. Why not pros? What would happen if the Orioles in one of their spring training games says, you know what? We have a lot of charities we work with. One of them, I know we have a good canned food drive. So you know what we're going to do? You can coach the Orioles for a spring training game. The Orioles for a spring training game. How much money would that? How much would you pay for that? 410-481-1570. I want to know how much you would pay to do that, to be the man. I'll tell you what I would do. I would pay if I won Powerball yesterday, I would pay whatever it took. I don't know. I think for the Orioles, I think it might take 25 or between 25 and 50 grand to get it, and they could donate it all to charity. And the first thing I would do, I'd be like, hey, Ubaldo, we just signed you to a 4-year deal worth $50 million. So guess what you're going to do? I know it's not your turn to pitch. Grab a bat, your designated hitter, you're leading off. Right then and there, people are going to spike their interest in what would be a meaningless spring training game. I'd tell, hey, Steve Lombardozzi, you know what? I want to know what it's like to see a guy play all 9 positions in one game. and Steve Lombardozzi would play all across the field, and in the 8th inning he'd pitch. Because in the 9th inning, I need to see Chris Davis pitch because I need to do my part for Buck. Because the next time the Orioles are in like the 20th inning in Boston, I need to be sure that if Chris still has the heat on his fastball, because they might need him. I mean, could you imagine what you could do? You could just do whatever you wanted. I mean, I would if you could jump on the dugout and cheer for the fans, but I just think that if teams really want to do something for charity, they should just make coaching availabilities, put them on eBay, just like Arkansas State did. I think it would be fantastic. I think you would have money for charity, and if you're not keeping score, why not go do it? That's why I think sports. I think that'd be fun for sports. What do you think, Nestor?
You're Jon Gallo.
I am
for WNST.
For WNST.
Yeah, there you go. Just make sure we wrap it up. That's all. How you doing? You all right?
I'm good.
5 minutes too long for you, or
no? Actually.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.